We have multiple surprising updates ahead of Game 1 of this Stanley Cup final as we get some shocking updates from the Edmonton Oilers that will have fans surprised. And we're also going to break down some health updates, some injury updates as it pertains to the Edmonton Oilers as they head into Game 1 of the redemption series against the Florida Panthers. We're also going to touch on the Florida Panthers as well for those Florida Panthers fans watching this. But we're going to break it all down in this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 72% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening around the NHL, this is the place to be for all your daily NHL content. So go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and again, get stay up to date with everything around the NHL. But KC, let's dive right into it. Media day has come and gone, and it is Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final coming up tonight. And we got into our projections and our everything we think was going to happen in this series in a previous video. But this one, we got some interesting updates from both sides, honestly, and some interesting storylines going into this series. And the first one is on the Edmonton Oilers side, and that is Connor Brown. He said that he will take warm-up and be a game-time decision. This was actually from Chris Knobloch, that he will take warm-up and be a game-time decision. He'll also read the opening lineup card before Game 1. Obviously, there was that video of him popping out from some cabinet in the dressing room and reading the lineup in their last game. Had the boys fired up and all that, so love to see that. The Oilers keep the same lineup card reader after a win. So obviously, they won the last game. And Connor Brown is going to check back in. According to him, he is going to play, not a game-time decision. He said he is going to play. So what does this do for the Edmonton Oilers lineup? We're going to get into some stuff about the Panthers in a second. But real quick, Casey, what are your thoughts on this? Because they're going to need a guy like this to step up big in the absence of another guy we're going to get to in a few minutes.
Yeah, this is huge. I mean, it's Stanley Cup final, Game 1. Everybody's excited, fans, and especially the players that are playing in this game. And I think Connor Brown would have to fall down a flight of stairs on his way to the arena today to be taken out of this game. You can tell in the presser he was fired up for this, and him saying, I am playing. I'm not a game-time decision. We know he's going to be out there on the ice tonight, which is awesome because this guy really stepped it up in the playoffs this year, really generating some offense from deep within this lineup and putting his name up, I believe, in like the top in the top 10 for the entire point getters for this team in this postseason. And it's just great to see a guy like this step up. He's a physical guy. He's not afraid to go out there, lay out with a hit, and get under the skin of the Florida Panthers, which they're going to have to do a lot of with guys like Marchand and Bennett and everything on the other side of the ice. So I think this is a huge addition back to the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers because he's a guy who's going to get into the mix with his mouthpiece and with throwing a few checks, but he's also going to get into the mix on the score sheet. And like you said, we're going to talk about in a little bit, which they're going to really need a few points out of him in this Stanley Cup Finals.
Definitely, and he had a couple shorthanded goals in last year's playoffs as well. Actually, I think a couple in the Stanley Cup Final specifically. So he's going to be a big piece of this team moving forward. And on the other side of things, AJ Greer won't play for Game 1 for the Panthers in Game 1, and Jesper Boqvist comes back into the lineup. And Boqvist was very good when he was in the lineup against the Toronto Maple Leafs when we last saw him in the playoffs. And AJ Greer has been really good. That fourth line's been really good for the Florida Panthers, one of the best lines for them in terms of every advanced analytic. They're operating at an incredible click. So what do you see from this too? Do you think this is going to make too much of a difference? Because again, their fourth line by all the advanced analytics has been their best line.
Yeah, if I'm a Florida Panthers fan, I'm not happy about this because this has been their go-to line whenever they need a spark or they need something to happen this game to get the bench going. You throw Gadjevich and you throw AJ Greer out there, and these guys are going to be on you on the forecheck. That's just these guys' games. They love getting the puck in the other team's D zone and firing it out to one another in front of the net. They've done a great job with this all playoffs long. So now not having that in your back pocket, if you're Paul Maurice, you really got to find a way here to another way to get the team going if this game does go south for them.
Definitely. And in terms of other updates and stuff I wanted to touch on as well in this video, Connor McDavid has been a big focal point of this series and how badly he wants to win the Stanley Cup. And Stan Bowman came out as well in a media availability yesterday and said that ever since he's gotten into the organization and he was hired as the GM, that's all Connor McDavid has talked about. He just wants to win a Stanley Cup. He wants to win so badly. And I thought this quote was very interesting from Brad Marchand. I want your thoughts on this too. He said that, "I find that you hold on to your losses more than your wins, to be honest." And I thought that was very interesting. And I know that Connor McDavid has been thinking about that loss last year for a year. And I kept saying it in previous videos we've done. This has felt like a business trip for the Edmonton Oilers. The last 3 rounds, they've handled business. They know how to get past those 3 rounds now. And now they're here back in the Stanley Cup final against the same team, and he means business. They want to win. And I think that also includes Leon Draisaitl. Them too, as a leadership group, have been willing this team to win. And I kept saying it on the channel. They're not as deep as they were last year on paper. It doesn't mean that they're not playing deep, because they are, and they've been incredible this playoffs to watch. But those two lead the way. They will this team to win. They lead. Their leadership qualities are fantastic. We saw it last year in the documentary and all of that as well. But what do you think about this quote and what it means to Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and why they should win this series?
Oh, we've all seen it in the Amazon doc earlier this year when that came out. We've seen how great of a captain that Connor McDavid was, but we also got to see, him and Draisaitl and all these guys kind of break down after that Game 7, and you see how much it meant to those guys, and losing it, you've seen it on their faces. They really wore it of how upsetting this was for them. So they're obviously going to have that in the back of their mind. And I think that's going to give them a little bit of motivation here to say, hey, we do not want to be sitting in this locker room again this year with our heads hanging low, the tears flowing. We do not want to see that. And I think that guys like Draisaitl and McDavid, who I think are maybe the best leaders in the NHL. I mean, I don't know who would rival them at this point. I think that, those guys are really going to be able to get these players going. Even some new players who maybe didn't go through that experience with the group last year, I think they're really going to be able to go into this locker room and say, hey guys, we do not want to be where we were last season. We want to be with the smiles on our faces, with the cup hoisted above our heads. I really do think that this is going to add an extra edge to McDavid and Draisaitl and just make them play better.
Yeah, like you said, talking to the newer guys on the team, I mean, the Florida Panthers, if you look at their room too, there's a lot of different faces there this year, but still the same core group has made it back to the final. And it would be absolutely devastating for McDavid and Draisaitl to lose in the finals in back-to-back years, but I just don't see that happening. I really think that they win this year. And another thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up here, KC, is Zach Hyman. He's officially come out and said that his wrist was dislocated. He had to have surgery on it. He's done for the year. Not just done for the year. He anticipates that he will be ready for training camp, but that's still up in the air. So he might miss some time heading into next season. That's how significant this is. And he's a big part of this team. We talked earlier in the episode about how Connor Brown has to step up, and I'm not saying that he needs to magically become Zach Hyman, because Zach Hyman is a unicorn in and of itself. I mean, he is a great player, but losing Zach Hyman in this series, I don't think the Panthers and most of their star players are 100% either, but this is a big blow. He adds so much to this lineup. He's not going to be playing at all, but I feel like the emotional factor of him being out and his teammates rallying around him and behind him and vice versa is going to catapult this team that's red hot right now to the Stanley Cup. So any thoughts on this before we wrap up? Because again, he's not going to be playing, but I think missing him is going to be a much bigger factor than people are alluding to, but I still think they get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge loss to the team. There's no doubt about it. He's a guy who, when McDavid puts it on a platter, he's burying it most of the time. And it's obviously going to be hard for this team to go forward without him. Do I think it's impossible? No, I do still think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win the Cup this year. But like you said, I've seen an interview where Zach Hyman said, when he heard this news, he kind of broke down a little bit. And, he's going into the Stanley Cup final hearing. He has to go and leave and be out for, probably the biggest series of his career. I mean, that's got to suck for this guy. And, the guys around him like McDavid and Draisaitl, guys who've played with him for quite some time now, obviously know how much this means to him and how much, he wants to win this. So I think that will also give them, like you said, a little bit of an extra boost to say, hey, let's get it done for Hyman here, because he's been battling with us all year, battling with us the last few years, and let's go out and get it done for him now that he can't be here playing with us.
Absolutely. And you can see some of the stats here in his playoff career since 2022, since he left the Toronto Maple Leafs and joined the Edmonton Oilers. Multi-goal games, 7, tied for first in the entire league. Goals, 35, second. Power play goals, 11, second in the league. Hits, 242, third in the lead, and obviously in the league, excuse me. And obviously he's had a lot of series and a lot of games to go through, but still very, very impressive numbers in the last 4 seasons. So we will see what happens. Game 1 goes tonight. It's going to be very interesting. I think we both agree, KC here on the channel, the last couple of videos, that the Oilers will be winning the Stanley Cup this year, but anything can happen, right? And Zach Hyman's not playing. That's going to be a factor. Goaltending is going to be a huge factor in this series, so it's going to be fun to watch. But we want to hear what you have to say about this series, all of the factors going into it. Let us know about the Florida Panthers lineup decisions, the Edmonton Oilers lineup decisions, and obviously Zach Hyman, and what this means for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers as an organization. But let us know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything NHL.